Greetings and welcome to Growth Hacking Secrets. I'm your host, Muhammad Siddique from Atlanta, Georgia, and the co-author of New Success Secrets available on Amazon. On this episode, we have a special guest, Colin Murphy. Colin is the host of Colin Podcasts about real estate show. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Colin Murphy. Colin, welcome.
Thank you very much, Siddique. It's an honor to be here.
I appreciate that very much. And I was reading your LinkedIn profile. In last 5 years, you have done $100 million real estate. First of all,
Yeah,
you
it's been busy.
aligned something looks like in 5 years, and you kind of made something happen.
That's right.
Yeah. So let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who you were surrounded with that inspired you to get into real estate and then dominate it?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm originally from Ireland and I live now in Tampa, Florida. I'm in my early 40s and I've been investing in real estate since my mid 20s, so about 16, 17 years. And I first got into real estate in London, where I started selling advertising space in real estate magazines and showroom space for real estate exhibitions. So it was a fantastic introduction to selling because it was kind of a high pressure sales environment, but I also got to interact with realtors and developers and lenders and currency specialists from all over the world. So I used to travel to exhibitions 20, 30 times a year, and I'd be traveling all over, Eastern Europe, Southern Europe, Florida, South America to encourage people to come and promote their real estate to a British and Irish audience. So it was a really cool introduction to it and a great way, kind of work hard, play hard introduction for a guy in his 20s. But after a few years of that, I opened a real estate office in Dublin, in Ireland, selling properties in emerging markets, which is mostly in Eastern Europe and Central America for a British-based developer. And that business did great for a few years. That was roughly from 2005 to 2008. And then the financial crisis just wiped us out. I had to close the office, let everybody go, except my sales manager, and start again from zero. And so in 2009, I set up a firm called Torcana with two others, and we started selling Florida condos to British and Irish buyers, because at that time condos were selling for 30 cents on the dollar. It was a great thing to promote to an international audience because our buyers were British and Irish investors. And that went from strength to strength for a few years. And then we made another pivot, Siddique, in 2014, where we stopped promoting other people's property and just started buying and renovating and selling our own property. And this was mostly to Americans. We started targeting Americans. And there was, as you can imagine, a few fits and starts. There's a big difference between selling nice condos and just kind of buying a house and renovating it. So the first probably 10 deals, we barely broke even, but we eventually, latched into a rich kind of seam of middle class, lower middle class, single family homes in Tampa. And we just grew every year. I think we expanded pretty rapidly from about 15 flips the first year to over 100 last year. And so there you go, like between 2015 and 2020, we probably did about 350, 360 homes, mostly in Tampa, Florida. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, they call it the rest of the history now. So,
Yeah.
so you learned something, thing or two about how to do in a real estate the right way, huh?
I did. And the biggest thing I learned was to, go deep before you go wide. I mean, I used to promote real estate, like I just said, all over the world. Literally, I would be promoting something in Germany and in Belize and in Panama and Argentina and Spain. And it was, you're working very, very hard. You're trying to, absorb a lot of information, which you can't. You can't be an expert in so many places. And it was just, we're just kind of scrambling by. You might make 40,000 one year, 60,000 another year, 80,000 another year, but you're always scrambling to keep the cash in the bank. So it was, I was always dependent as well on other people to supply inventory that I could promote. So once I made the decision to just become an expert on one area, and in my case, that was like a handful of suburban neighborhoods in Tampa, Florida, just go deep and find those $130,000 houses and just buy as many as you can and scale up. And number two, just control your own inventory, which makes it much easier to scale and plan. So those two things were very important. Another thing that was key for me was just to outsource as many, $10 an hour tasks as you can. It took me, I'm sometimes I think I'm a very slow learner. It took me a very long time to learn that. And, for example, I used to spend lots of time doing data entry on potential deals, just inputting beds, baths, square footage on dozens and dozens of properties, and then drawing up the offers, and then driving by the properties one by one to look at them, look through the windows, get into the houses, write an offer, talk to them on the phone, negotiate it. And 90% of that is automated. You can get other people to crunch the data. You can get other people to draw up the offers, to drive by the properties, and you should just be making a decision on what it's worth, how much you need to spend, and how much you want to make an offer for. So that made a big difference. Same with podcasts. I started doing that a few years ago, and I just had figured it all out myself, doing audio editing and looking at Feedity, and it was just so silly. It would have been much more productive just to find someone to do it for me and use the extra time to find more real estate deals, and probably the third thing I can recall, and probably the most important thing, but might resonate with you and your listeners more, is that we spent way too many years in our own little bubble and didn't really network with anybody and learn from anybody. And that really held us back, Siddique. And once we started learning from people that were further up the ladder from us, our growth changed dramatically. I mean, just spending time with and developing deep relationships with smart, open-minded business owners is one of the best investments I've ever made, and one of the best investments anybody can make. And I really regret not doing that sooner.
Wonderful. So I'm so glad you are on my show right now, because you are way ahead in the ladder on the real estate. You learned so many lessons. So what are the top 3 missteps to avoid when you get into real estate in investing, especially?
What's mistakes to avoid? I mean, well, like I was saying, just don't go deep before you go wide. Outsource those $10 tasks. That those are the things that I miss doing. Don't just do your own thing. Try and learn from others. Try and find a mentor. Try and do joint ventures with other people. Don't try and just make all your own mistakes at the same time. I mean, try and find other people that are already doing it and learn from them, and just kind of be open-minded to learning from your mistakes and to pivoting, to admitting when you go wrong, to not hanging on to a property that's not working. I mean, I've lost money on a lot of properties, and instead of just holding on to them or waiting 9 months or 10 months to sell them, just cut them and move on, and just just treat people well. I mean, one of my main, one of the things I did wrong for many, many years is I wasn't very good at tracking the income and expenses of the business. You just kind of run it like a mom and pop business, where you're just kind of week to week and month to month, right? But you can't grow like that. You can't become wealthy like that. So I think if anybody can get into the habit of tracking their income and expenses every month, and that could be for your household, it could be for your rental properties, it could be for your business. And if more people just spent maybe 3 hours a month just building and reviewing their balance sheets, their P&L statements, they'd have a lot more reserves for rainy days, and they'd find it much easier to take advantage of opportunities and just generally to accumulate that wealth and cash flow.
Wonderful. So in the real estate, you alluded that you had so many mistakes in the early, when finally you kind of aligned everything together, figure it out, outsource so much of it, and just be a decision maker instead of trying to make calls and drive. Do you mind sharing any a specific, your single most professional failure in the real estate, and what did you learn from that, and how did you recover from it?
Yeah, I've made a lot of mistakes. I mean, really, we could talk for an hour. Sometimes I feel like I've made 3 times as many mistakes as I have successes. But I mean, the successes are far more important, financially, and they make up for it. So, I mean, for example, we tried to renovate houses out of state, which was a huge mistake. I mean, we were based in Tampa, Florida, and we were just, initially renovating houses in Tampa, Florida. But then we decided, I've heard Charlotte is a hot market. This is back in, I think, 2012 or 2013. So we bought a few houses in Charlotte, and they weren't even the same types of houses. They were higher end houses. They were $400,000 houses instead of $120,000 houses. So we started trying to manage a renovation 1,000 miles away for a product that we weren't that familiar with, and it was a nightmare. And I think we were just lucky that the market was booming, and all the mistakes we made, we got away with them. But at the same time, we probably spent $350,000 to sell a house at a $10,000 profit after 5 months, and we did that 3 times. So I think I spent almost 10 months of my life working extremely hard. It was very stressful, me and my partner David Shaw traveling back and forth to kind of manage this stuff, and it was a nightmare, and we really got nowhere. We really got nowhere. It was just back where we started, and just lucky, I guess, not to have lost a ton of money, because we could have. Another huge regret I had even earlier in my career in 2010 was getting into promoting solar energy, solar investments in Germany to British and Irish buyers. And that was totally outside my expertise. I'd been in real estate for the previous 6 years, and I'd been talking to people about real estate and learning about it. And suddenly, I met somebody at an exhibition that said solar is going to be huge. The German government are giving 30-year guarantees for solar power. I think this could be an interesting thing for your buyers. So I promoted it, and it just turned out to be a disaster. And again, that was a huge lesson for me, not, number one, to stop promoting stuff that I don't personally control, which was a harsh lesson. And number two, to stop promoting stuff or selling stuff that I don't understand, that I don't have accumulated expertise in. So I should have just continued accumulating my expertise in real estate instead of going off chasing, these sparkly lights in the distance. So that was a massive, lesson and a big failure for me. I lost a lot of money personally, and other investors lost money as well. So that was very, very tough.
Oh, wonderful. Colin, you work with so many investors. So what's a typical cash and cash, IRR, something, internal rate of return, to offer to investors to be, so that way they keep working with you over and over,
Yeah, sure. So we target kind of middle class suburban neighborhoods, so that there's a lot of rental demand and resale demand. We try and target places where there's about 2/3 owner occupiers. We're well below the median prices. I mean, Tampa is already a pretty affordable market. Median prices are about $280,000, but our houses are generally well under $200,000. You're looking at rental returns. $150,000 property would probably rent for about $1,300 a month. That would be a 3-bed, 2-bath property with an attached garage, maybe 1,200 square feet, built in the late 70s, but with brand new kitchens, bathrooms, floors, etc. So the house is good as new. You're probably looking at a rent return of about 7% cash return. That's deducting insurance, management, property taxes, and then with a leveraged return, you're probably looking at about 10%. So that's pretty strong. 7% cash, 10% leverage. It used to be higher, clearly, but those rates have compressed over the years as the appreciation has raced ahead of the rents.
Wonderful. Colin, I am working in real estate for 15 years myself. Right now, I am working with. I am a student because I like learning. That's why we have you as a guest in the show. So I like to, with a student mind, I always want to learn. I don't want to do all those mistakes what you were just mentioning a moment ago.
Yeah, sure.
Because they are costly. I rather learn it from a person like Colin, like you, and avoid them. That's why we have this show. I have a mentor. He's a reckless billionaire. He owns 48 businesses and 160 miles of beachfront properties in the US and around the world.
Wow.
And right now he is in the process of building a Mystique project, a safe city in Tennessee, 4,000 acres. And I'm learning from him, and I finally graduated myself to a little small partner, like a tiny small partner to his projects. Because we learn by actually doing it, not just learning from books. Is good for concepts, but you have to apply it, what you learn.
You do. You need that action-orientated mindset. It's very important, because the only way you can progress, Siddique, is taking action, gaining experience, learning from your mistakes, and just moving forward continuously. And another thing, if you don't mind, is a healthy attitude to risk is also essential, because if you aren't prepared to take some risks, you're probably going to end up working for somebody who is.
Yeah. So he is to investors working with offering 12%, 20%, 50%, 100% on real estate projects, and he makes, it's very common for him to make a couple of $1,000% on a real estate project. I am thinking it would be a good way for you to kind of meet him on a Zoom call and kind of figure out some synergy and collaboration together if there is any possibility.
Sure, happy to.
Cool. How the growth hacking secrets community, people who are watching this now, can support you?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
How the people who are watching this right now can support you?
Oh, I mean, easiest way is to go to my website. You can see it on your screen there, colininvestments.com. You'll find a range of free to download reports, You'll find lots of videos and podcasts. You'll find a button that you can schedule a call directly for me. I like to help people on their real estate journeys in particular. So I always free up a few slots for that. And you can always just that way, colinvestments.com. You'll find me on LinkedIn and social media, but the easiest place to start is that website. And I'm always very interested to hear about people and their entrepreneurial journeys.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Colin, we are about to wrap up. I like to almost ask this question to almost every guest to get a kind of feedback on the show. What would you say about your today's guest experience on a Growth Hacking Secret show?
It's been very pleasant. I always enjoy sharing my story with people and learning about a new audience. You seem to have built up a fantastic profile, Siddique, and I'm delighted for the opportunity to be on the show. I've found this a lot of fun, and I enjoyed your questions.
Thank you for your kind words. Really appreciate it. What would you say as a final word?
I think if you want one thing, like a silver bullet in terms of a habit that's helped me tremendously and that I work very hard to encourage in my children, is that developing a keen interest in reading from an early age was huge for me. And if you can get someone to read books from when they're very young and just develop that habit of reading every night, no matter how tired you are, you'll be doing them a massive favor, because it will improve their curiosity, their imagination, their concentration, vocabulary, writing skills, and ability to understand complex ideas. So it's a huge difference. And I think that's one of the key reasons I've been successful over the years, because I started reading books and I was a very curious person from a very young age. So if you have any young people in your life and you can encourage that, I think you'll be doing them an enormous favor.
Yeah, age is just a number. We are always young by heart. So
that is true.
Leaders are readers. So that way, readers, that's my last word. Start reading at any age. Start reading the books. Your mind thought process will change, and adapt positive things.
It's a habit, and it might take you 30 days to develop a new habit. That is a fantastic one to develop. And I love that expression, leaders are readers. That's very true.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Colin Murphy, for sharing your wisdom with us today on the behalf of Growth Hacking Secrets community and our entire team. Really appreciate you. This is Muhammad Siddique signing off from Atlanta, Georgia. Until the next episode, all good wishes.